My name is Laura Uusitalo, and I'm presenting a work by Axel Rosberg and colleagues about a conceptual framework for quantitative criteria for selecting targets and indicators. So, as we all know, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive states that the healthy or the marine environment is in good status when it's ecologically diverse and dynamic, clean, healthy and productive, and its use is sustainable for current and future generations. So this quite clearly implies two little bit distinct types of current uses and the potential for future uses. And the current uses we know how we use the sea at the moment, and we more or less know the ecosystem services that we need to support those uses. The future uses might be something that we can't even think about right now, and to be for the future generations to be able to use the seas in those ways, they need to have the sea in a sort of a pristine or pressure-free state. So we need to give them a sea that they can use in ways they want. And we propose a definition of strongly sustainable use, so that we use the sea in ways that it doesn't restrict the ways in which the future generations can use the resources. And this is the focus of this talk now. So not so much the current uses and current ecosystem services, but the potential for the future uses. So in practice it means that the ecosystem components must be in a state that if the pressures are released that affect the sea, the ecosystem component or a part of the ecosystem will return to its natural range. So how can we actually choose indicators to support these goals? And how can we know what is the acceptable range, current range for these values, so that they will return back to their natural level? So I'll try to explain it. Assume that the blue box there describes the natural range of variation of the ecosystem components. And assume that because of human activities, it has varied, it has gone up or down from the natural range. So this could be a fish stock size, it could be primary production, it could be anything. And assume further that if we release the pressures that are affecting this component, it will start to move back to its natural range. So we need to calculate how far from the natural range we can be. We can have the ecosystem component so that if we release the pressure, it will go back to the natural range within an acceptable time frame. In this example, it's 30 years, but it could be anything we choose. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, whatever. We chose 30 for a sort of a generation length, approximate value. And if we calculate back how far from the natural range we can be, we get the target range. We get the range that we can allow for now. So this is an example of the Baltic Sea grey seal population size. The blue bars there indicate the natural range that's been evaluated. It's between 80 and 100,000 individuals, and the red bar there shows the approximate current populations, that's 30,000 individuals. And we are assuming logistic population growth here, and the population growth has been between 6 and 10% in the last years. So if we assume 6% growth rate in the beginning, we should have about 40,000 and a little bit about 40,000 individuals in order to get back to 80,000 in 30 years. If we can assume 10% growth, we can allow 20,000 individuals now, and we can still reach the natural levels in 30 years. And We argue that indicators are relevant in this framework if they are outside of their target ranges, or they are likely to be pushed outside of their target ranges. I'm not talking about natural range, I'm talking about the target range now. And we notice that the target ranges and the relevant indicators are quite tightly intertwined. You can't define them separately. And there are more examples in the paper that was just recently published in Ecological Indicators. And it's important to note that this framework gives a target range for strongly sustainable use, but it might be a different target range that we want to have for current uses. So it might be that the optimal fish yield can be reached only with a higher population size than actually this framework suggests. So a lot of work remains to be done in this respect. We need to figure out whether we have indicators for all the relevant, all the vulnerable ecosystem components. We need to figure out the target ranges for them, and we need to figure out target ranges for pressures so that we can maintain the component within the target range. And also we need to find out the relevant spatial scales for management of these ecosystem components. So thank you. This work has been published in Ecological Indicators. It's actually dated 2017 by Axel Rosberg and colleagues. Thank you.